One of the most unusual fish we have here at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences is the lined seahorse, or Hippocampus erectus. Actually, all seahorses are classified into the same genus, Hippocampus. Hippos means horse, and campos means sea monster. These horsey sea monsters are one of the most unique bony fishes in the world, and we will explain why. Recently, researchers have been able to sequence the entire genome of one species of seahorse, and they found that seahorses have a higher rate of evolution than any other species of bony fish that's been sequenced so far. Basically, a high rate of duplication and loss of specific genes, as well as the loss of some regulatory elements in the genome, have led to a very rapid evolution in the seahorse. Thus, the seahorse exhibits some fascinating and unique characteristics, and they develop those in a very short period of time. Let's get into some of them. First, seahorses have a very unique mouth morphology. They have a long snout, a fused jaw that they cannot open and close, and no teeth, which is very, very unusual amongst bony fish. They don't need any teeth because they don't actually chew their food. Instead, they suck up their food using the negative pressure created by their long snout. So the development of teeth in both fish and in humans is regulated by a very specific set of genes, and these genes are actually missing in the seahorse. And this shows us the connection between gene changes and specific and distinct morphologies. A second unique characteristic is the fact that seahorses do not have pelvic fins. This is significant evolutionarily because pelvic fins are the precursor to human legs. It's how fish ended up walking on land, on dry land. Now, the pelvic fins are controlled by a specific gene called TBX4. And TBX4 is found in almost all species of vertebrates, but it's absent in seahorses. Again, showing the connection between genes and how it's manifested in a seahorse. Seahorses also do not have a caudal fin or a tail fin, meaning that they are actually very slow swimmers. In fact, the slowest swimming fish in the entire world is the pygmy seahorse, which at its maximum speed swims at 5 feet per hour. Another remarkable aspect of seahorse morphology relates to their skeletal structure, which has drastically changed over evolutionary history. And all comes down to these regulatory elements in the genome. So regulatory elements are DNA strands that control the function of genes. And a lot of them are very conserved throughout evolutionary history and throughout many different species. And they're pretty constant because their functions are super important. But some of these genes that seem very, very constant and very important are actually missing in a seahorse. And so their skeletal structure has changed dramatically. For example, seahorses do not have ribs. Instead, they have bony plates along their body instead of scales. And this protects the seahorse from predation. Additionally, seahorses have a prehensile curly tail. Prehensile meaning it's able to wrap it around things and it's able to really be mobile with that tail. So these prehensile tails allow the seahorse to hold on to eel grass as it does in this tank or onto corals, and this is very useful for the seahorse as they are very, very slow swimmers. With the ability to hold on to a structure, they can be very, very still and can be camouflaged to their backgrounds, allowing the prey to get very close so that they can suck them up with their long snouts. Our final trait, unique characteristic with the seahorses that we'll talk about today, is probably the most shocking. The male seahorses are the ones that become pregnant rather than the female, and this is likely due to gene duplication. When a gene is duplicated, the duplicate can often have completely different functions than the original, and this has probably led to the embryos being developed inside the male's brood pouch rather than inside the female. Due to its specialized morphology, the seahorse superbly demonstrates how genetic changes can result in evolutionary changes that lead to very distinguished traits. Therefore, making the seahorse not only one of the most beautiful fish we have here at the museum, but also probably the most bizarre.